I've used SharePoint since it first came out. While I've taught people many different features and different ways for creating, storing, managing, and finding data in SharePoint, there was always one feature that I enjoyed showing. The reason is my database background lets me know how much people sometimes hate being forced to work in a certain way. In SharePoint, they often felt like they were being forced to work with data in lists via forms. For many, that was just fine, but others realized that having to open a form, enter or modify data, click Save, go to another item, open that form, and repeat those steps all over and over again was not always the most efficient way to work, especially if they wanted to do what I call batch entry or batch update of items. I'd show them how to use something called the datasheet view, which was basically putting the SharePoint list into a spreadsheet-like format, so you could move left and right, up and down, and very quickly enter data as fast as you could move and as fast as you could type. The bad news is that datasheet view has been removed from SharePoint 2013. I do believe everything happens for a reason, though, and there is a reason behind this as well. You see, SharePoint is maturing. The deprecation of the datasheet is part of that maturation process. The datasheet has been replaced with something newer and better. You see, in the early days, SharePoint interacted extensively with Excel. Excel was very common. Anybody who knew how to use a computer knew how to use Excel. It was a good start, but Excel is a spreadsheet, and SharePoint is a database. So they were kind of like cousins trying to get along. They had some similarities, but they also had a lot of differences, and it didn't always work well. As SharePoint matured, Access became more of a key player. Not only did it become more tightly integrated, but it also became more popular. Most people now have Access on their desktop, and they know how to use it. That, you see, makes sense because Access is a relational database, and so is SharePoint. SharePoint behind the scenes is a SQL database, so Access to SharePoint is more similar than Excel to SharePoint. Instead of cousins, it's more like either siblings or possibly even twins. In SharePoint 2013, Access features have been more tightly integrated than ever before. This includes the ability to keep data synchronized between Access and SharePoint 2013 lists. That means for those who work tightly with data and are used to working in databases, they actually can work in Access and directly work with the data in SharePoint. The end users who are more comfortable not in databases and in web browsers can still work in SharePoint. It really is a beautiful thing. So in SharePoint 2013 lists, you have the option to utilize something known as Quick Edit View. This feature is possible because of the Access integration, and it replaces the old datasheet view. So let's take a look and see how Quick Edit allows you to work quickly and easily with edits and modifications. The first thing to know is to get into edit mode in any list. All you really need to do now is click where it says Edit this list at the top of the list. When you're in edit mode, you'll see that it changes to Stop editing this list. So that's kind of your visual indicator to let you know if you're in edit mode or not. Once you're in edit mode, you will see kind of a spreadsheet-like grid that now appears on your screen. You can simply move through and use tools very similar to Excel. By simply clicking in a cell, you can edit that cell. If you wanted to change the due date for a task, for example, you could simply click in the due date column. Now, this is one of the places where you'll notice a difference between the old version and the new version. In other words, between Quick Edit and the old datasheet. In the old datasheet, you had very limited functionality. When you were in a date field, you had to type in the date. In this new version, with Quick Edit, you actually do still get the calendar options. You can display a calendar and choose a different date and not have to type it in. That's just one of the many examples of how Quick Edit is better or improved over the old datasheet. You'll always notice when you're in edit mode that you have a blank row at the bottom of your list. This is where you can click and start to type new tasks. By simply typing and using your tab key, you can move from field to field, or you can choose to click with the mouse. Once we move to a people picker field, again, you'll see that you can actually browse for information. You don't have to type it in. Another one of those improvements. When you are ready to get out of this edit mode, though, you can simply click or tap where it says Stop editing this list, and then you'll be back to your regular list mode. By the way, don't worry about trying to find a Save button when you're in the edit mode. When editing like this, changes are saved as soon as you move off of the edited row. That's an Access feature that you now get to enjoy in SharePoint too. One last feature that I think people will really like, we're not going to demonstrate it, but I wanted to tell you about it, is that you can now copy and paste data into SharePoint List too. What you want to make sure is that you have columns that exactly match. So if you're bringing something from a spreadsheet or maybe from a Word document table, make sure that you have, in this case, title, assigned to, status, priority, due date, and so forth. Even if they're blank, make sure you have the space. Then you would simply copy them from the source, come into that blank row at the bottom, and paste it in. And you can paste in literally hundreds or thousands of records with a simple click of a mouse. It really couldn't make life any easier. And what you now know is that SharePoint 2013 more tightly integrates actual relational database services and features for Microsoft Access than ever before. This allows better, more functional integration between applications. You may or may not use all of them, but there are probably a lot of these features that you'll be using without even being aware of them. The old datasheet view has been replaced with the new Quick Edit view. And Quick Edit, of course, allows you to do bulk entry and edits quickly in a spreadsheet or database table-like format, something that will be easy and intuitive for many people, not the least of which also includes the ability to copy and paste data.